Howdy folks, Jeff here in the garage again. Just thought I'd tear down this old Volkswagen engine. I just started taking a few things off. Carburetor was already disconnected. And let's see what else we got here. Distributor got to come out. There's a few other things, but first off I realized it still had some oil in it, so we're draining the oil right now. Then we're going to dive into this a little bit and see why it won't rotate 100 or 360 degrees. I suspect there's a catastrophic failure inside, so stick with me and we'll see what's going on in this thing. Alright, as that engine oil is draining, I'm going to just start taking apart a few things. One of the things I want to get at is the fuel pump. The fuel pump is located right here beside the generator on these engines, and it works off one of the cam lobes. So it's just held in there with a couple of bolts. These engines are very simple to work on, and they don't require a whole lot of specialty tools. So if you ever dig up one of these engines and you're new to the world of mechanics, you know, tear into one of these. There's lots of books on the market on how to rebuild these engines, and they're really an inexpensive engine to build if you have a purpose for one. Myself, we have two air-cooled Volkswagen cars. We have a van and a Beetle, and they both run this style engine. So I'm going to tear into this, maybe get some money together and rebuild it, and have a spare engine just in case anything ever goes wrong with the other ones. Okay, I'm just about to take the fuel pump off this engine, and one of the things you need to know about these fuel pumps is this is an older style, although it says it's made in Brazil. There's a diaphragm, there's some neat things in here, and it runs off the cam, as I said, on a little rocker arm assembly in here. This is basically rebuildable, but one of the things you need to know if you're going to replace it is the length of the push rod. There's a push rod right here, and this is critical. It's absolutely critical that you know the length of this push rod. So keep this with your assembly. Do not lose this. Very important piece. There's a gasket and a little riser block here. Oh, no riser block, sorry. Just another gasket. And then I'll pull out that distributor cap. And we're still no longer draining oil, so we'll pull that little cover off there and maybe get an indication what went wrong with this engine. There's definitely something wrong with this. It will only rotate maybe 180 degrees and it locks up solid. Maybe looking in that strainer, maybe looking in that in the strainer, which is just a wire mesh. That's basically the filter. Sometimes you can get some evidence of what went wrong with this engine. Alright, I got that strainer off, and it's full of gook, but I don't see anything. I'm just going to hit it with some brake cleaner. Anytime you're using brake cleaner or any kind of aerosol spray, make sure you got some glasses on. You veterans out there have done this stuff before, you know that, but there's always new people coming into this hobby, and you know, sometimes you don't get the basics or you know, the fundamentals you know, right off the top. If you don't have somebody that you're mentoring or you know, who knows their stuff way around it. Your eyes are very important. You can't do this without your eyes, so wear your safety glasses. Never hurts to have a good supply of rags around. Take two. I don't see a lot of, I don't see any large particles or pieces of aluminum in this. But what I do see is neglect. Look, this is sludge. That's just solidified oil. It's disgusting, but you know, that's what happens when things bake in your engine. And so that gives me an idea of what maybe the previous owner, you know, was like with their vehicle. This stuff is just caked right on there. It's thick and it's nasty, but no no chunks, nothing that I can see that's going to go, oh wow, that's a piece of a piston or anything like that. So we'll just give this another quick clean and throw it in the box. It will probably, not probably, it will get replaced, but I like to keep all my old parts for reference. If I start throwing things away now and in another month I'm ordering parts and there's a question on a different model, a different this or that, I won't have a chance to know what I took out if I threw this away. So keep all your old stuff. So I'm just trying to get at that distributor cap right now, or the not the cap, sorry. Going after that distributor. I loosened up all the hardware and it's tight, and I just gave it a quick spray. Sometimes things are not going to go as planned, and unlike those shows that you watch on TV where they assemble an engine in half an hour, trust me, they pre-assembled the whole thing, took it apart, and it took many takes. I don't have a problem with showing that something stuck, whereas you won't see that too much from them. They want to show you how well things can go together. The cruel truth is things don't come together very easy all the time. Things don't come apart very easy. So sometimes you got to get in there and use a little muscle, soft face hammer. Yeah, but it's not always as easy as it looks on TV. But that did come out with a little bit of persuasion. All right, let's take the intake system off next, and then we can look at the shroud and generator. I am not an expert at this. I've never actually gotten into a Volkswagen engine too far, so I'm learning as I go too. All right, I just removed the bolts out of the intake system. I got one of the plenums off. As you can see, this is a dual port engine. That's how you can tell for people who are just getting into the Volkswagen world. That means there's two runners to each side of the engine. The older ones just had one single port, and so I'm just in the process of removing the rest of that intake system. It's not difficult, and as you can see, it's just a matter of removing all the screws and bolts. Everything on these engines are fairly standardized. As I said earlier, you only need a few tools: a 10 millimeter wrench, 13, and a 17 should get you just about everywhere you need to go until you get into some specialized tools later. But Volkswagen kept everything pretty basic back then. So there's the other, this would be considered the right side intake runner, and then what most would consider is the manifold. And I don't think that's just going to fly out of there, or maybe it will. No, it's got that pipe on it here. So what I'm going to have to do is I'll take the generator off, and then that will come out with relative ease. So that's the next step. Let's get this generator assembly out, shroud, and we'll flip this thing upside down and start taking a look at the underneath. Okay, so as I said before, I'm not an engine builder. I am not a master mechanic. I'm just a guy with a garage and a bunch of tools. I like to come out here, and I'm learning as I go along. One of the things I just figured out is that there is a large size nut on the back side where the fan is on the inside that shroud. That spins the generator, and without having, I'm sure, a proper tool to remove that nut, all you're doing is spinning the generator. One thing I did remember is that this engine does not turn 360 degrees. There's a mechanical failure in here. So I put the belt back on, tightened it up, and I'm going to use that, whatever the mechanical failure is in here, I'm going to use that to impact that nut off the back. You know, there's probably other ways of doing this. There's probably a proper tool or a way to stop that pulley. But, you know, this is the way I'm going to do it, or this is the way I'm going to try to do it anyway. So, you know, stay with me. Alright, so that worked out perfect. There's the nut I was talking about. It's fairly large. Has a special washer, and that came out without that much problem. So in reality, I might not even have had to have gone through that much trouble, but you know, you never know until you try. So I gave that a quick snap and it came right off. Now that fan is loose in there, this generator assembly can come out, and you know, we'll take a look at what's going on with that. So I just removed the part of this pulley assembly, and once again, for those who don't know, there's no tension, there's no pulley tension on one of these engines. The way Volkswagen solved that is with a shim pack, and they put shims in between the two halves of the pulley. By shimming it out, the belt will get looser, and by removing shims, the two V's come closer together, and that pushes the belt up, so it tightens the belt. So that's how Volkswagen gets away with it. And so you keep these shims, they're very important to have. Anything that's left over, they just put on the outside. So there was a shim pack on the outside and a shim pack in between the two pulleys. It's really not important at this point to keep track of what was where, because when you put a new belt on it, chances are you're going to have to go through the process of setting it up, putting in some pulley or shims, and putting the pulley on and assembling it, and then finding out if you need to remove or add shims. So as long as you keep them together, because these are handy to have. So I just tried pulling this generator assembly out, and you know, sometimes the obvious hits you right in the face. There's a little pan here that's got to come off, and that whole assembly probably would come out without me going through that process of taking that nut off. I'm not sure. Once again, the veterans who are still watching this video, and if you're a veteran, I'm just telling you stuff you already know. If this is new to you, then you know, it's new to me as well, and I'm learning as I go. Alright, so I just removed the generator, and it probably was a good thing I had that belt off in the back. Once again, there's shims in here, so be sure you don't lose those. There is a large nut and washer that went on there. I'm just going to reassemble that, make sure those shims don't come off. And it's always a good idea to put things like that back together anyway, just so that later on when you go to come back on this project, you know, your memory isn't, so maybe your memory's better than mine, but you know, for me it works. Put it on there, I know where it came from, no question about it. Now I can remove that intake system. I think. Here we are. So there's the intake manifold. Carburetor sits on here. Fuel comes down and gets drawn into either port. And these are heat risers. They come off of the exhaust and kind of warm everything up. It looks to be in pretty good shape. If I'm going to run a single carburetor on this again, you know, it's definitely a reusable piece. Here's the fan. This is the fan that blows all the cool air onto your engine. Because it is an air-cooled engine, this is a major part. So check it over, make sure it's in good condition. Anything that's broken or bent or out of shape on this, replace this. This is a major part. You know, it spins, it's going to spin fast, and you know, you want this in good condition. So I just got finished taking all the little flathead screws out that hold the shroud on, or at least I think I did. There's always one or two that elude me, but that looks like it's loose. Nope. But I usually, whether people agree or disagree, I usually replace these with hex head screws because these flatheads don't treat me well. So I find if you get some M6, M6 designates the thread of the screw. It's a 6mm thread. Some M6 hex head bolts that you can get in there with a ratchet and tighten and loosen, opposed to this flathead screwdriver system, which seems to cause me just grief. And that would be the shroud. Here we have the oil cooler that the engine pumps up. That fan blows air onto this. Most people say Volkswagens don't have a radiator. Truth is, that's a miniature radiator. That's what that does. It keeps your oil cool. So we'll disconnect that and get the rest of this tin off. Some of these screws are giving me grief, so I'm going to have to get tough with them. We'll have this thing tore down in no time at all, so yeah, just stay with me. So I got the tin off the other side of the engine. I had to break out the grinder and remove one of the heads of the screws. That's not something I like to do, but every now and again you gotta get sort of aggressive with these things. And as I said, these flathead screws, they can give you a hard time. By doing that though, I end up leaving part of the stud in the head. If I go to reuse these heads, then you know, I work in a machine shop as a machinist. I'll get that out. I can work on that. If I didn't have that ability, maybe I would have taken a little bit more time, tried some heat and let it soak with some penetrating oil. But you know, I'm not going to frig with it now when later on I can get that out myself and have that problem solved. So I got a few more of these screws to remove, and they are truly a bugger. Then I can remove the tin on this side of the engine, and I still have the generator pedestal to remove, and that oil cooler. So yeah, let's get this old tin off. All right, so I come up to a little bit of a hiccup here, and of course these things happen. You got to expect them. You can never prepare for them, but you have to expect sooner or later something's going to give you some trouble, and it's how you deal with that trouble that determines whether you're going to be successful or this is going to sit on a stand for months on end, and then you're going to sell it to somebody or give it away or whatever because you're going to be just frustrated with it. The problem that I'm having right now, that pulley on the crank is pressed in, and it probably requires a certain Volkswagen tool to go in and pull this thing off. I have a 2-jaw puller here that almost goes into these slots, but not quite. I'm going to do a little bit of modification to this puller because it's just a cheap puller I got from Princess Auto, which is a lot like the Harbor Freight in the US. It probably cost me, I don't know, maybe $10. And I have better pullers that will do, you know, a better job at doing a job that's, you know, maybe where I'm not needing to modify one. But sometimes you gotta, you know, you gotta sacrifice a tool. So I'm just gonna grind some material off the back there and see where I get with this. So with a little bit of ingenuity, a little bit of time on the grinder, I now have a puller specifically designed to take these pulleys off of Volkswagen engines. I took a regular old tool and I turned it into a specialty tool. I won't throw this away. I'll hold on to it knowing that that's what I use that for. And you know what? That's pretty cool. I think that worked out well. So with that off, I can get the rest of this tin off. This generator pedestal off without getting this tin off. Without bending it all to crap anyway. So that's the reason why this pulley had to come off first. That's pretty neat. So now that I got that pulley off and the engine tin, I was able to get the pedestal for the generator off, and now I'm taking the the oil cooler off. And so I just removed the valve cover off this side of the engine and removed the push rod tubes, the push rods. Everything looks fairly normal. I don't see anything broken or busted up too bad on this side. So I'm gonna attempt to take these heads off and you know, go from there. I'm not gonna push too hard to get this thing all apart tonight, but when I remove the head on this side, I'll be able to take apart the thermostat linkage, and then this item here can go in the box of parts. And then we'll be down to the top of the pistons, pull the barrels off, take a look, and be able to inspect all that. Regarding why this thing won't turn over, I mean, that sort of pisses me off, that I don't know what the problem is. So can't be that hard. We'll tear into it a little bit and see what we got. Okay, I just removed the nuts off the head, and I started jiggling with it a little bit, and I thought, well, maybe this is a good time to fill them. So I'm going to rotate the engine around. Try not to bend anything up. Like that. And let's see if we can manipulate this head and come off without a whole lot of problems here. Here we are. Push rod tubes came with it. That's okay. The head seems to be in, I'd say half decent shape, but if you can see in there, this side doesn't look too bad. This side here seemed to have had some sort of an issue. These valves haven't moved in a long time by the looks of it, and maybe that's what was causing some problems as far as this engine not rotating. It could be just a matter of the valves being stuck. But that's why we're tearing into it. You know, this cylinder wall is awful. It's no good. I don't even know if it could be bored. I'll set that over here. Look at that. rust and crud, and yeah, it's just absolute mess inside this cylinder head. No question about it. This is I'd say this is where the problem was. Nothing was going to rotate up in that. There's heavy scoring in that wall. Just look at the mess in that. Oh man, that is disgusting. You know, if you're going to replace the barrels, you might as well get a big bore kit. Absolutely. So I got the other cylinders off, and everything came apart really well. The pistons, cylinders seem to be great shape on the right side. The left side of that engine, that's where the problem was. That cylinder was one messed up cylinder. So right now what I have to do is figure out what direction I'm going to go with this. Do I just want to slap on a big bore kit and rebuild it from there, or do I want to split that case? I've never split a case before. I don't know what I'm getting into as far as that. Gonna have to do some research. Might be an adventure, it might be a learning experience for me. Take you guys along with me, walk it through, and see what happens from there. But right now, it's storming out like a son of a bitch. Plow just went by, which means I have a mountain of snow in the front of my driveway. I got to get out there, get that shoveled, make sure everything's a go for tomorrow morning. We got to go to work. So, unfortunately, that's as far as I'm going to get today. Thanks for following along, and you know, subscribe, and thanks for watching. Oh man, what a mess I got here. I got some major cleanup to do. I don't think I'll bring anybody along for that mess.